Can you just tell us firstly what the philosophy is of the Youth Academy?
The St philosophy is a lot based around about using the ball to do with trying to develop technique. If you look at boys like Stevie Mallon, John McGinn, Kenny McLean have obviously moved on, even other ones like Jordan Stewart, Lewis Morgan, Lewis McClear, they're all very good with the ball at their feet, and that's something I've tried to drum into the kids at a young age. So if you look at what we're doing here just now, the philosophy is quite clear to see: use the ball, try and get kids on the ball as much as possible, develop technique. Alongside that, philosophy covers other areas regarding hard work, developing a culture, that the kids come in here with the right respect and the right manners, right discipline, but it's all based around when they go into the pitch that they do work hard and they do have the right mentality towards what we're trying to do. Regarding the philosophy within that, we try and have a high press. When you look at a lot of modern day teams, they all try and press the game high up the pitch. We try and do that. The reason behind that is trying to win the ball high up the pitch, closer to the goal, and then when you do get the ball back, it's trying to play with an attractive style. And what we do try and do is a big part of our philosophy, which we're synonymous about now at St Mirren, is getting the ball out for the goalkeeper, try to play through the areas regarding defenders, midfielders and attackers, and just trying to have an attractive style. So.
What's the reason behind that philosophy?
That's a good question. I think since I've been involved in here, if you even come away from being a coach, I like to see football that I want to watch, and you want to see something on the pitch that you do obviously enjoy watching, and I think that's a big part of it for me. There's obviously things that have inspired myself regarding what I've tried to bring to the football club, going back maybe 4 or 5 years ago in Barcelona at their absolute highest point, when Guardiola was in charge. It inspired myself regarding how we want to play, and I think things like that is behind it. Also the fact I just think it's the right way to play football. I think if you look across the countries, the way that football should be played, they play with that sort of style, and that's probably a big part behind it. But it's also to develop players, more importantly, regarding if they're on the ball more, if they're playing in a certain way, getting the ball at their feet, then they're going to get better. So when they do get older, hopefully they'll play at a higher level.
So you mentioned about things like respect. You noticed when the players were coming in that are on the field just now, they were shaking Ross's hands and shaking your hands. What's that about?
I just think it's just down to manners and respect regarding for each other and for obviously staff. So we've tried to develop that when they come in here. There's a big thing in life at the moment with young players that they maybe culture's changed, so we're trying to make sure the culture goes back to being correct, if that makes sense, that kids have got respect and discipline. So when they come in here, we want them to say hello, we want them to kind of meet and greet each other, meet and greet the coaches. It's a sign of respect. You know it yourself, if you're, as an adult, you meet somebody, you shake their hand and you have a conversation with them. Sometimes that's went away for children, I think, because they're too busy playing with their phones or their iPads or whatever they're doing. So we're just trying to make sure when they come in here, they've got those sort of social skills, which I do think are missing sometimes because there's so much technology. So that's a big part of it. So when they come into the club, and that's at every age level, they come in, they say hello, we try and have a conversation with them, shake hands and stuff like that, and I think that it just helps them to develop social skills. And we try and do that with anybody that comes in. Even the first night you come in, the kids will come up and introduce themselves to you, which I think is important, and I just think it's good social skills. So away from football, I think that parents and just supporters need to understand as well, we're trying to teach them the right things as people.
So one thing you notice when you look around these players tonight is that they're all wearing black boots. Why is that?
Again, just to try and get them get grounded, try and get them in understanding. I've got a wee saying in here that it's got to be substance over style, not style over substance. Too many children and young players nowadays are too worried about how they look. Fancy hairdos, like mine obviously, earrings and stuff like that, fancy boots, and it's just to say that that's not important. The most important thing is how you do in the pitch, no matter what colour of boots you wear. So we want to try and get all the kids looking the same. So if you look around, you'll see them that they're all wearing predominantly black boots. If some turn up with too much colour, they are told they need to change them or try and black them out a little bit. And again, it's just to try and keep them grounded, get them into the ideas I said earlier on, substance over style. And that inspired because Man United used to do that. They still do it or not, but I visited them years ago, and that's something they always had. And again, it was all to do with discipline, respect, and so on and so forth. So it's something that I've took for somewhere else and just kept, obviously used it at St Mirren. It's hard to implement, to be honest with you, because if you get into a lot of shops, majority of the time it's coloured boots and all your top players wear them. But my throwback to the kids is, and it's always the case in here, you've got to wear black boots right up to under 20s. If you make it into the first team, you're a regular, then wear coloured boots. And if you look at Malin and the rest of them and Big Jack and stuff like that, they are wearing coloured boots, but they've earned the right for me. That's them now at a level where I think they can obviously kind of wear what they want because they've earned the right through the Youth Academy to do that. So.
How successful has the Youth Academy been for St Mirren since you've been here?
maybe a little bit biased to answer that question. But I think it's been very successful. I think the last 10 years it does take a lot of time to try and implement what you want. It doesn't happen overnight, and I think we've kind of started a bit from scratch. We've come in to try and build something and try and structure something. But I think if you look over the past wee while, we're getting a lot of success, and there's a lot of good players either in the first team and about the first team. If you go back as far from the shorter term, we picked up like Stephen McGinn, who's John's older brother, as a later developer, and then he obviously moved on for a fee. After that, we've had obviously different boys in the first team, like your Davy Barnes, Mark McCausins at the time they've played at St Mirren and done well at St Mirren Football Club. We've then obviously ones like Kenny McLean, John McGinn, who are very talented. They've then went and played with Aberdeen Hibernian. Probably could have went even, I think, higher level down in England, but at the moment that's where they've went to. I think it's great for them, they're still developing. If you look at how well John's doing with the 21s at Scotland, I think both of them have got the potential to play the national team because they've got the quality to do that. And then over and above those ones, you've got the first team at the moment. You've obviously got Jackie and Stevie who are playing regularly, Sean Kelly regular, Jason Naismith when he was back for injury. And I think Sean and Jason are good examples of two other young boys that have come into the team who came in as centre backs, moved out as full backs and done really well. And then this season you've had ones like Lewis McClare, Lewis Morgan, Jordan Stewart, Barry Cudahy, Lewis McClare, and so on and so forth. So I think we're getting more and more success now because obviously the work we've put in over the years.
So you've just rhymed off quite a lot of names there that are involved in the first team right now: Morgan, McClare, Baird, Mallon, Kelly, Stewart. How important is it that there is a pathway to the first team?
There's got to be. I think it's all down to the way your club's structured. There's no point in an academy if they're not going to play, and I think that it's got to be down to the manager to give them opportunities. And I think over the piece when Danny was in, he opened up a pathway for young players which maybe wasn't there previously. The pathway's opened up that obviously boys get opportunities, and I think that's something that we're very thankful of. We've got a club and a structure that are getting young players through.
Do you feel vindicated when players make the first team, or are you just happy for them that they're making it on their own?
I think vindicate is the right word. I'm just delighted that they're getting opportunities. I mean, you work with boys for years, you do build a very strong relationship with them. I mean, I'm very hard and firm with them. I am. I like to have a bit of humour with them as well, try to get the balance. So you build up a very good relationship with them, and I see a lot of the boys in the first team, I pride myself in the fact we do have a good relationship. So when you see them actually making that next step up, it's great. You know, there's a bit, because I'm getting older and they seem to be getting younger, it'd be a lot of father figure, I think, or I feel like a fairer at times because I'm a little bit older. So I do have a really good feeling when they get the opportunity, and it's even more pleasing when they actually do well. I mean, last year when I seen young Stephen obviously doing so well in a very difficult season, winning obviously goal of the season, winning young player of the year, and over the past number of years where you've had like guys like Kenny and Joy winning young player of the year, Sean Kelly, Jason Naismith, that's why I do my job. And even little things like I still keep in contact with some of the boys and stuff like that, and it's just when you see them doing well, and I see John McGinn recently congratulated them, just the fact he's doing so well with Scotland 21s, there's why you do your job, you know. It's like you do that for the benefit of St Mirren to try and get players through, and also just to see those players progressing, so it's pleasing.
What's your background? You've been here for 10 years, what did you do before?
I was doing community stuff before the academy, so I've come in here, I was at college, I always had a mentality regarding trying to develop and coach, so I was at college doing a kind of coaching qualification at the time. I then progressed into coming into the club just on a voluntary basis initially, and then just trying to develop a link from the community to the youth. I think when I first came in that link wasn't really there, so you had a really strong community programme, but with the way that the pro youth was starting to develop, there needed to be a stronger link, and what we tried to do is implement that. So when I came into the club, I was working more community based, working obviously developing young players from a kind of general point of view. What we've then tried to do is actually try and pick out the better ones, which is part of football and part of life, even though some people might disagree with that. So it is a wee bit elitist, but then you want to try and get the better players through. We then started to obviously link that through with kind of development teams. The academy then get a little bit younger, so it starts at under 11s, and it was just to build that together. And it was about maybe 10 years ago, and then we became a head of youth. And again, as a younger guy, it's a massive job, but it was having that strong mentality and strong opinion that we're going to play in a certain way, and we're going to try and get players through. And it takes time, you know, but I do think now when you look at it, we are getting the success of all the work that's been on, not from myself, but from a lot of staff I've had in here, past and present.
Looking at the current crop of players in the Youth Academy now, are there many names that you're excited about?
there's all, it's funny with young players because how they can develop. You look at something like reverting a little bit. Stevie Mallon, who came out of the community programme at 4 years of age. Now Stephen always does show quality when he was younger, but at times he will take. A lot of kids do take dips. So probably around about 15, 16, Stephen took a bit of a dip, you know. Had to push through that, as did John McGinn, as do a lot of players, you know. So when you're looking at younger ones, yeah, there's ones that excite you, but you've got to be careful to how you manage their expectations and their own expectations. But there is, I mean, like, we've obviously got one of the under-17 players, a boy called McAllister, who's been playing with the 20s, been doing well. But there's a few boys within the 20s I think are good. And then up and down the levels, there is ones that are doing well. Not really for me to maybe mention too many names, I don't think that's fair. But there is definitely ones there. It's hard because you're looking to try and get as many through as you can. Sometimes you get a wee bit of luck as well, but you think that what we've put in with the 1996 age group is a very strong band. When you look at them out that come through, you're not always going to get that, just for various reasons. Young players these days have got far too many other activities they can be doing, and not just, I mean, like going out and about or other sports, whatever it is. So there really isn't the same drive and desire. So to get a crop through is difficult, but you're still looking for one or two. And if I go through every age level, for 14s upwards, there's one or two very, very talented players in there that are showing massive potential. Below that, it's obviously harder because they're only babies still to me. That there's a long way to go, but there's a lot of young players that I think have got an awful lot of potential.
You mentioned how some of the younger generation now have different things to keep them busy. How hard is it to try and get them focused on football?
Listen, I'll always be honest, and you can paper things up. No, that I think it's difficult. It's hard work to try and get young players motivated, because I do think society and culture's changed a fair bit. I think that kids are mollycoddled and pampered. They don't have the same desire and will and want. I think that going back maybe 10 years ago and so on and so forth, there's a lot of stuff in the media about that. But that's just society, and that's a lot to do with how culture's developed. So I find it difficult to try and get them motivated all the time. These age groups are excellent. You look at your 11s, your 12s, your 13s, there's that real buzz, and it's you start getting 14s are okay, 15s, but they get starting through hormones, and there's other stuff going on in their bodies that they lose that wee bit of kind of sight in what they want to do. So it's hard, I'll be honest, and it's hard for the coaches at times, but all we can keep doing is drumming into them, getting them working hard, put demands on them. And again, in this day and age, then people say, oh, you can't put too much demands on them. But you've got to, because I don't think they get it for enough other areas. I don't think that happens. So I think we've got a right, or sort of got a duty of care to them to get them to work hard, and hopefully down the line then the penny will drop in their head that they've got to work harder. But it is difficult, I'll be honest with you, but all we'll keep doing is working as hard as we can, and really try our best to motivate them and really put demands on them, because I think we need that. And I look at what's come through, I think we're doing something right when you see the amount of players that have come through, that are still at the club and moved on. There's definitely evidence there that how we work and what we're doing is actually worked. So.
How difficult is it to get players in young with the proximity to like the likes of Celtic and Rangers?
It's hard because it's very competitive. If you look at the size of clubs Rangers and Celtic are, and well, obviously they're bigger clubs, so there's always that kind of attractive side about, in the west of Scotland in particular, because a lot of parents are Rangers Celtic fans, and you're trying to get them to change that mentality and think about down the line. And if you turn out to them and try and explain to them, look how many players are playing in our first team and have came through in comparison to other clubs, then you're going to get a chance here. But it's hard because they've obviously got a certain mentality, and I think as well that there'll be other clubs that use a certain sales pitch to say, oh, well, it doesn't work out here, you end up going to there anyway. It's a wee bit harsh, I think. So we've got to work really hard to try and convince them, and I do think we're getting there. I think you see the evidence we've got and what we're trying to do, and particularly the style of play. All academies should be doing that. So there's more doing it, but I think than clubs should be doing that a long time ago, and we try to pride ourselves in that the style we try and do is developing players. And again, if you look up to the top end of it, the players we develop have got good technical abilities. Even defenders that we have, have got the same level of quality as what maybe Stevie Mallon's got. They've still become an awful lot better in this football club because they're working with the ball all the time. So but all we can keep doing is try to drum into them, and I think things like this is important to try and sell the club a bit more. And in fact, this is the best place to come. A provincial club like St Mirren and the like is get a far better chance of progressing to the first team and then progressing to a higher level after that than maybe going to a bigger club too early. But that's obviously a little bit biased for that as well, but I do believe it's the right thing, because when you do look across the country and think how many players get a chance here and compare it to other clubs, and I think we actually kind of win that quite comfortably.